Okay, we're live and on the air. Welcome to the event. We're going to be going over creating a video where we are showing various color options. And this is mainly for media production for your website, for media marketing. But we're going to get a couple things out of this. One is that we're going to get a color sample chooser that you can plug in or embed into your website so that you can have clients. If you have a client portal and you want to show different color options, it's nice for them to be able to click a little color indicator at the bottom of a rendering and switch the color out in front of their very eyes. It makes an interactive aspect to this work, and you can offer that as an option, or you can just show that as kind of a marketing tool on your website or your social media platforms. Now, the video is more geared towards social media platforms like your Instagram or YouTube channel, something like that, where we're just showing that we have the capabilities to choose have interactivity with your clients. So um, we're not going to get a lot of live viewers on this. I posted this really late, but I'm just going to work through this as if we're live. If you are in this feed, you can type comments in, and I'll respond. So get that started too. Perfect. Here we go. Okay, so main thing here that I'm looking at is that I've got 4 renderings, and we'll show them here on the right-hand side. We're in Photoshop. This whole feed, by the way, this particular live set is going to be about Photoshop and Adobe Premiere. So I've got 4 renderings stacked in. They were taken from the same camera in a modeling software of my choice, right? This one was taken from Chief Architect. And I rendered out the same shot with different color variations, okay? So there's a couple of things I need to do to prep this video. The thought here is that the video is going to keep some constants throughout the video, which means that things that do not change color will remain constant throughout the video, and all we will be doing is swapping out the color palette of the cabinets themselves, which means I need to figure out a way to mask these cabinets. Now there's a couple different ways to do that and do it accurately, some more efficient than others. We can try I'll try a method right now. We're going to try just our quick selection tool. The quick selection tool is pretty easy. I'm going to start with my darker cabinets because it has a higher contrast, so maybe this tool will work better. I'm using this to just select those cabinets. Now that did a pretty decent job. I also want to select this. Actually, we'll leave the interior of these upper cabinets untouched. So there we go. That selection tool actually did a really fantastic job. This is live, so you're seeing this as I'm seeing this. This was not a prepped course of any kind, so you're just seeing me work through a couple shots. I'm going to use my select and mask tool because I can see that I've got a few things messed up here with the selection. So up at the top, I'm using select and mask, and this defaults to a refined edge. And so on my refined edge, I'm going to come in here and just draw a straight line up against this and draw that same straight line as the edge going this way. And that's just going to kind of detail in this edge selection. Hopefully um, fix my selection, if you will. The rest of this selection looks good. I think it's pretty much on the money, except for happens to be that the side of the cabinets here are in fact shouldn't be selected. So I'm going to have to get in here and fix that. I can fix that from this menu here. I'm going to go ahead and use just my pen tool, is the letter P. Get in here real tight and really get a finite grip on this selection. And I think that ultimately this is where I want that line to go, right there. Get down here, see that line. This is all part of that cabinet. It just has a high diffusion from the light. That's the under counter light. So I can right click on this close pen tool selection, make it a selection. There we go. Except for that I want to add to my existing selection. So before I even do this, I might just create a mask. I might create a mask out of what I have existing. So over here I've got this layer selected. I'll create a mask. What that did, if I alt click on it, it made a mask out of my selection. I'm going to block out anything that's not included in this mask. That's the white essentially Look back here. If I uncheck all layers below it, you're going to see we've just selected these cabinets, right? So the white is letting those cabinets through, and that's the only thing that's coming through. So back in this view, I happen to have duplicate images, so it's easy for me to pick up this selection, and that this selection needs to be in my mask as well. So I'm going to make a selection here, and I'm in my mask. I have my mask selected. Not sure that you can see this, but I do have my mask selected so that if I use a brush tool, size it appropriately, I'm painting with black, which is going to hide this section. Actually, I want to hit X and switch that, so I'm painting white. Now I've added that to my mask. Okay, same thing on the other side. I could flip that selection, but I'm just going to draw it out again with my pen tool. Make sure I'm hitting exactly the place I want to. I can zoom in real tight to the pixels here. Get up here, get my selection just right there, and then just make sure I've got the rest selected. Dodge that cabinet face there. Go, make it a selection. Switch to that brush tool, brush this out. Now I want to turn off the layers underneath. We should see that we have selection made here. Now let's see, I didn't have a true white in my mask, so that's be a part of this. I've made sure that I had a true white to create that mask. The same thing, I need to make sure that I got a true white here in this section. Now that I have this mask created, I can utilize this mask use on my other renderings. Fix that last little bit of select. Okay. So with my other renderings, and simply, I can do this a couple different ways. I can just create a mask and then drag this mask into that mask, but guess what? It replaces it, right? If I hold Control and drag it in there, it doesn't do anything either. Remember how to do this, but it's actually Alt. So I can grab that mask, Alt it down, and it's going to add that same mask to these other setups here, right? So that did a pretty good job, except for we went a little too far. I want to choose one of these images as the main image to include with the backdrop here. So I'm going to go back a few steps. I'm going to go take that mask back a few steps. I'm going to choose one image where maybe the walls look nice and bright, or if there's any difference in coloring. Like maybe best image is actually my first one. So I'll Alt this down, copy that mask down. I'm going to delete this guy, delete that first mask, and, or rather, delete it. I'm going to Control J to copy this top one, okay? And then I'm going to Alt this mask up, drag it up, Alt this mask up. And here's the last bit, is I'm going to invert this mask, okay? Control I. Now it's inverted. Now you can see here's what's in that inverted selection. Now we have that constant, the thing that's going to be in every shot. I'll show you how this all works when we file this into our Adobe Premiere. So I want to make sure I've got this mask down to our other layers. Now we have 4 color options and we have a constant. Select all of these and export them as I have a folder already set up. We're going to make a, done this once before, so we're going to make this color chooser. You followed so far, but this is pretty basic stuff where we, in Photoshop, where we're creating masks to only let certain pixels through, right, to our canvas. Creating a PNG, and a PNG is a really important part of this. PNG is get transparency in our image, okay? Now I'm exporting all these images. They're going to export as their own layer and with the name intact there. Now I could have changed the names on these to better understand what these were. I could have changed the name of the dark gray to be a constant, and then the rest of these might have made a little bit more sense. I didn't do that, but here we go. I'm going to get into Adobe Premiere now, expand this, and I'm going to drag these onto my timeline. Just only need to find the location of them. And we've got this color streamer live stream. I'm going to copy all these and drag them in, right? That's what I want to do. But in fact, there's an issue with that. The issue is that we've actually exported things at the wrong size, if you will. So there's a problem. So solution to this problem being that may have needed to leave a little bit of opacity, if you will, on some of these images. Let me actually drag this first image in. Okay, so there's our first image. That's going to be our constant. And then these other 4 images we're going to stack alongside. Actually, that worked pretty well. So if I get into my working timeline, if I expand my timeline to the edge here, what's going to happen when we play through this? You're going to see as I drag through, colors change, but the appliance, the walls stay the same. Wow. So here's kind of the last little bit of this. And this is it's a simple part of detailing, which is that I want to add in some video effect. Roll over here to my effects, get into video transitions, and maybe I want to do a dissolve. Now, there's something about this where I want to set the timeline. I want this to be, take so many seconds for this to display before it switches from one view to the next. If we just click play, see how long it keeps this in frame, right? A little longer than I want. I want this to transition a little faster. So I'm going to group select all these nested clips and I'm going to, well, I could nest these clips together and change their overall duration. That would be easy enough. Make a nest out of this, change its speed duration. I want this, yes, I want it to speed up a couple 100%, so 300%. Makes it about 6 seconds long. Now, if we click play, you see this going through a little faster. There we go. We could even make it faster than that if we wanted to. Now, the only issue with this is I didn't get to do some of the crossfading that I wanted to do in this nested clip. So if I go back a couple levels, now I can start detailing this a little bit more clearly. So I want to grab all of these, change my speed duration, and I want to make sure ripple edit shift trailing clips checked. Then I can change duration seconds. There we go. The only other part of this is that I want my video to fade in at the very beginning, which means that I actually want to lengthen the first clip. And I will tell you, I'm still learning Adobe Premiere. I'm not that great at it. Good enough to get a few things done. So I'm going to increase this first clip, and you'll see the point of that in just a second here. That way, when I add a additive dissolve in front of this, in front of our background, our constant background, now we get a nice fade into the shot. Then I can add crossfades in between color changes. Add a little bit more to the back end of this white. I could have made that an exact second marker here, but black. Last bit is I might line this up and dip black on that. Now let's look at the whole sequence. Fades in, crossfades the color. Look at that, nice how it faded into that next color. What a cool effect. That's it. This is a short video. That's as quick as it gets. So a couple things that we need to know about this process is You need to have renderings from the same camera position, right? You're going to change your color and whatever finish options you might want. Then export, stack these up in Photoshop, create masks, and then we need to have an inverted mask for your constant. Bring it into Adobe Premiere, stack them up, increase the length of your first nested clip and your first clip and your last clip, that we can add in some fading effects. And then maybe you want to put an audio track in, number of things. Then export this as a video, pump it out to your different feeds. You can even time this and export as individual clips. If we were to go back into Premiere and actually make some cuts, if we get in tight here, we actually make some cuts into our clip. You can actually time these so that we're at our 1 minute intervals so that you can export this as a story to your Instagram, right? And that makes a huge difference. That to your social media platform where we're under a 1 minute clip, this is just going to roll through on a story. Right? It'll just jump from clip to clip. It'll be a nice transition. So kind of helpful. The other thing is you might add this to website. I know that I have a section on my website that I'm still working on where I'm offering services. So part of that services website is that we get to see these color options. I can get that on this. I use Squarespace as my page. My page editor. I have some stuff that in a shop that's not published yet. Working on this stuff. Here we go. Here's our finish options. You can see here, someone can just pick a different option. Clever as that. Cool. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. See you on the next feed.